Wow. And I actually, I believe what the Holy Spirit gave me to share this morning is just so apropos. It's for, Revelation's wonderful. It is. I mean, you get blasted just by a revelation, just by having something revealed to you. It's true. I mean, it's amazing. It's wonderful. But that is not the goal. It's not the end game. It's the beginning stages. It's about that revelation to you being revealed, being manifested, being materialized, being substantial, sensory, and what you can touch and what people can see and feel and be impacted by. And so revelation is but it's an invitation. I think Bill Johnson was to say that. Revelation is an invitation into an encounter. And sometimes revelation, it can be so enjoyable, and it's so soothing, so encouraging that you mistake that as, oh wow, I've made it, I have it, and yet it really is just the beginning stages of God releasing His nature, His goodness, in a very, very practical and powerful way. Now, on August 28th, 1963, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist, delivered one of the most powerful speeches ever given in American history, the I Have a Dream speech. Some of you may be familiar with that. And it has been credited with helping to inspire, motivate, and mobilize an entire nation to action and transformation. And now I believe that one of the reasons why behind the power of that message wasn't just that it was, it was filled with beautiful, well-constructed rhetoric, but because it was filled with Martin Luther King. In other words, in that message, in that sermon, was the very character and life of that man. Yeah. That's why it had so much authenticity and power and impact. There was an integrity between the one saying it, what was being said, and who they were. Powerful. Now, great oratory skill, and there's sharing something with great skill and humor and clarity and examples, and as mesmerizing and as impacting as that may be in the short term, it will never have the force of a message that is incarnated in a man or a woman. When we are what we say, our lives are powerful. Did she leave? Where's Christina? Well, anyway, I'm going to still say it. Do you want to know why Christina is so powerful when she leads songs of worship? Because she's a worshiper. Because she is a song of worship. That's why. She's powerful. Incredibly powerful. And it's not because of her skill at singing, even though God uses those different tools. Listen, I've lived in Nashville. Let me tell you something. They've got more skill, more musicality, more production ability than you can ever imagine. And yet it doesn't have the anointing that we get when we are led by Christina. Why? Because a lot of times it is just the performance of it. It's the natural expertise or the talent. And I'm not saying they don't have a heart for Jesus, but it's when we are worshipers, you know what I'm saying? When that's really us, that's our nature, that's our heart, that's what we do 24/7. When that word, is incarnated through our lives, and there's nothing like it. And, just like that man was full of that message, that word. I want to tell you something. This word right here, this message is full of Jesus. This book is full of Jesus. I mean, we are just scratching the surface. This book, this message, this word is full of Jesus. I mean, remember, Jesus said to the religious leaders, it's in John chapter 5, I believe. And he said, you search the scriptures. Now he's talking about the letter of the law. You're searching the letter of the law that you might have life. And their very purpose is to reveal me. That's the purpose, to demonstrate, to testify. A testimony is what? It's not just a message. It's literally the evidence of something. And that's that. And this right here is full of Jesus. And the passion and purpose of the Holy Spirit is for that to be revealed to us, revealed through us like never before. Now, more specifically, I want to look at something very familiar to us. And that's Matthew chapter 28. In fact, Matthew 28, these are the last. People think the only last recorded words of Jesus is Acts chapter 1, verse 8. And that's not true. Actually, Matthew 28, 18 through 20, that's also what he said. These were also his last words. And I want to tell you that there is so much more of Jesus waiting to be discovered and experienced in these last recorded words. And but before continuing, I just would like to make this observation. How many would agree that there is still a lot of who Jesus is not manifesting through his people, his church? How many would agree with? Come on. I mean, if this is the metric, come on. This is the metric. And this isn't to, be a discouragement or, oh man, we have so little, but it's a good point that there's still a lot of who Jesus is as revealed in the Word that's not being manifested in his church. And if the truth be told, besides simple ignorance, a primary reason for that is that God's people, that's us, for whatever reason, we are not engaging the connections or the activities that God has designed, that God has created, that God has prepared for the catalyzing or the activation of that reality. We know that's true. We really do. In fact, God has set up all creation like this. All of creation is set up. I mean, you have to farm for crops, right? You have to mine for minerals, metals. You have to shop for groceries. You have to drive for travel or walk, right? You have to train for fitness. You have to study for learning. You have to stand in line for Starbucks and Krispy Kreme. Isn't that true? Of course it's true. See, God is the provider of all things, but you can't just go out on your back porch and there are the all things. Sorry. You're not just going to show up here and you're going to have the all things. It doesn't work that way. The revelation, the promise, the inheritance, yes. His glory everywhere is tied to certain conditions, certain activities, certain relationships, certain partnerships, certain behaviors, certain actions on our part. And I believe Matthew 28, 18 through 19 is some of heaven's mining tools, mining equipment that carves out, that releases, that manifests and materialize so much more of that. And please, I know we've called this the Great Commission, and we see this often. The church has dialed this down to a mandate that we have to do in some perfunctory, dutiful way. And that is just so far below its essence, its power, its impact, its partnership, its design in relationship to our lives. There's so much more in there. And he starts off in verse 18, he says, all authority, and I want you to notice something, a word that's used 4 times in these couple of verses. He says, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore, actually what that means, as you go, as you do life, Doesn't mean just going out on the mission field. You are in a mission field. Your backyard is a mission field. Every place where there are folks that don't know Jesus, that need deliverance, that need healing, that's a mission field. As you do life, make disciples, followers of Jesus, right? Of all nations, all people, others outside yourself, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, teaching them to deserve all I've commanded you. What is that? That's His word. And I am with you always. That literally means all your days. And I'm with you all your days. Notice that. All authority, all people, out here, as you journey, not just the few under your roof, but it's people on a journey. It's people in a broader environment, right? Number 2, all that I've commanded you, that's His word. And number 3, I'm with you always, all the days. And I really believe there's a causative link between the first all, the all authority, and Jesus manifesting in all our days. There's a difference between showing up with all authority, having all authority, being entrusted with authority, but manifesting Jesus in all your days. It's not the same thing. I mean, the church, He's already given it to us. But we want it to go from having His authority to manifesting Jesus in all our days. Remember last week I said, man, that is one of my primary passions. I want to be so full of Jesus that, He can just show up everywhere and all the time. And have that same passion for each one of us. That actually, quite frankly, that passion started with the Holy Spirit. That's His passion. That's His purpose. And so I submit to you that the catalyst for His all authority manifesting Jesus in all our days is to have a lifestyle out there with others doing the word. Would you mind if I speak to you like grown-ups? Is that okay? Good, because you are. You are grown-ups. And so that for that all authority to manifest all of Jesus, we have to have an out there with other people doing the word lifestyle. Yeah. Hello? Read the Bible. It's in the book. Every testimony you will ever hear was somebody out there trusting God, sharing something, giving something, sowing something, trusting the Lord. Have you ever thought about it like this? It's in Matthew 18, and He talks about the good shepherd. He says, the good shepherd will leave the 99 in safe pastures and go in search of the one who has gone astray. In other words, He leaves the 99 in search of the one. What does that imply? He's not always in here doing what we're doing. Boy, it got quiet except for you. You giggled a little bit. Yeah. Listen, I do believe we have the fullness, but the fullness doesn't manifest just sitting in your seats eating popcorn. Doesn't, man. Yeah, we do. You're right. Bless us with the fullness, but man, now you want to activate that. And God has given us these catalysts, these opportunities, these relational engagements in order for that to happen. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you have a nice healthy breakfast full of good carbs. That's energy for the day. You just don't lay down and go back to sleep. You know what I'm saying? It's got purpose beyond itself. And the revelation of this, of our identity, of who we are and whose we are and who He is and who we are together. It's got to go farther than just the excitement that we have in a meeting or in a gathering, and it's tied here. Now, please, please, please don't get me wrong. God's goodness and God's love for us is a done deal regardless of whether you ever leave your seat or not. You can stay glued to that seat for the rest of your life, and it will never change the fact that he loves you unconditionally, that he has given everything to you fully and completely. You are a co-heir based on what Jesus did. It's a done deal. But you are a co-laborer. We're not just a co-heir. It's like children, like my children. When they were little, everything I had was theirs. Well, at least they thought so. Pretty much everything I had, they were heirs. They had an inheritance. And it was theirs. My heart for them, my love for them, what belonged to them didn't matter whether they went to school, whether they did a sport, whether they learned a hobby, whether they learned to drive, whether they went to university. But because they did those things, it enabled them to withdraw from the inheritance. The stuff that they had that belonged to them and the bank account of my love for them was activated as they made decisions, to do things, to try things. Do you know how that works? That's how things work. That's how it's designed. And so I just want to make that very, very clear that it's already ours. You're right. But I tell you what, when we need to see it, you know what I'm saying? We need to see it like never before. And it's real. It's there. It's right at the surface. And as soon as God's people just step over the chicken line, decide to go beyond what's comfortable and what's easy and what's around them, stuff happens. This thing lights up like never before. And did you know that Matthew 28 is for us just as much as it is for the lost? In other words, we need to do it as much as they need to receive it. Yeah. We need to do Matthew 28 as much as the world needs to receive it. And I just would like to kind of pour a little bit more fuel or a little bit more motivation into this, doing this word with everyone out there. Because that's really what that is. This word with people out there. I mean, I guarantee if you listen to 90+% of all the testimonies, you'll find that factor always there. You'll find that dynamic, that exercise of faith, taking those steps, reaching out. And so I just want to give you a couple of these before we close. Number one, the first one is all the benefits. I mean, God made us benefit motivated. Anybody notice? Absolutely. We are motivated by personal benefit, personal improvement, bettering ourselves. We learn for improvement, right? We study for improvement. We go to gym for improvement. We build relationships for improvement. We know that's true. That's why David wrote in Psalms 103, verse 1, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits." Don't forget his benefits. Those benefits inspire us. They motivate us. We've been designed that way. And I'll tell you what, the benefits of this are incredible. I love Acts 20:35 where Paul quoted Jesus saying that it is more blessed to give than what? To receive. Our most blessed state is giving beyond ourselves. It is. That's our most blessed state. I know we don't have a lot of people, so I don't know if I can get the third question answered in the affirmative, but how many have ever given away a car? Raise your hand. Okay. How many have ever been given a car? Oh, you've been. Which was funner? Come on. What was more fulfilling? Of course it was. Of course it was. Yeah, of course, getting a car. I've been given a car and I've given a car. And giving a car or giving something away is so much more reward. It's deeper. It's deeper. It goes so much deeper because it's a reminder. Wow! Look what God enables me to do. Look at how big he is it doesn't take you to be very big to receive something, but it tells you how big you are when you're giving something. That is one of the biggest reminders of how powerful you are. You can't know you're powerful just because people are prophesying over you every day. You discover how powerful you are when you're out there living those prophecies, taking steps of faith. That's the season we're in like never before. And that's why, the enemy, man, he's resisting that tooth and nail. If he has any, I guess he's got some teeth and nails. Just a few. In Luke 6, Jesus said this, if we only give to those who do good to us, we have a reward in full. Think about that. If we only live transactionally, in other words, we give to, our spouses, our kids, our close friends. See, this is about giving to those who can't give. It's not transactional. I'm making a sacrifice. It's not about can they give something back to me. It's about what they need that I have. So if we only give to those, he said it, if we only give to those who give to us, we will have our reward in full. But give to those who can't, and you make room for the reward of heaven. The reward of the Father. I want the Father's reward. I really do. I just don't want a return. In other words, I sow a car, I get a car. You know what I'm saying? The reward of the Father is the kingdom. It is so much more powerful. It is so much more amazing. It really is. Some of our, I might be stepping on a couple of toes here. God will heal you. It's all right. I've had my toes broken many, many times by people stepping on my toes. But some of the greatest breakthroughs you'll ever have in your life personally happen this way. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, I do believe that we need trauma counseling. I do believe in that. I'm a counselor. I've done deliverance, inner healing I'm for a long, long time. I believe in all of that. We need deliverance. We need sozos. We need inner healing. I believe we even need medication sometimes. I believe that. But in my 41 years of full-time ministry, one of the greatest remedies I've ever found for hurt, rejection, oppression, or other bondage is to get up and give. Yeah, thank you. Somebody. Yeah, I promise you. I'm not dismissing that you need healing or you need trauma counseling. But some of the greatest breakthrough is going to come when you just get up and give. And don't allow that hurt to define you. Don't allow that to be bigger than the one that's big inside of you. Seriously, it's true. I've seen this. Think about the, I want to get up on that seat. And think about the demoniac from Gadara. This guy was so demon-possessed, his demons had demons. His demons were demonized. Now, can you imagine how damaged he was in his soul after they left? Jesus didn't sign him up for 10 years of sozo and 5 years of trauma counseling. And I'm not saying he didn't get some along the way. But I'm saying, what did he do? Go back and tell your people what I've done for you. He put them into the full-time ministry. Think about that. Because I promise you, there is a deliverance, there's a breakthrough, there's a freedom from bondage that comes when you just live like Jesus lives. When you exercise your faith and don't allow there is a feeling isn't necessarily the ultimate reality. And you have to know that. And they're so closely associated, you don't know that often. Often that's the case. That's where the battle is. And I'm not saying we don't deal with our feelings and if there is a habit and a pattern and it's ongoing and whatever, but often you only find out when you take that step of faith. Think about it. It's like giving out of lack. We do that with giving. If we have lack, sow a seed. I'm saying we don't just wait to receive, we sow a seed, whatever that might be. We're exercising our faith. We're confident that, okay, my soul's got some issues. It needs some work. But in my spirit, like Brother Garth just released and said, there's a blessing. There's a kingdom of glory. And I'm going to let this come out. I'm a believer in love therapy. I really am. We are loved out of our bondages, but we also love our way out of our bondages. Yeah. And I've seen it happen. I've done this with people. I said, listen, why don't you just give here? Why don't you just, and boom, it's over, it's done. The breakthrough comes because sometimes it's just a lie. And it's not the ultimate reality in their life. So some of the greatest freedom we'll ever have is when we're living like this. So like I said, there are so many benefits. There's so much blessing that comes that is just there as we take those steps, as we apply this word, we trust him, we share it out there with others not like us. But then there's another place, the consequences of when we don't. Did you know that, we're not only motivated by the upside, but also the downside? Yeah, the downside has an upside. Did you know that? Well, it's like a scared laugh, The downside has an upside. Do you know, I eat primarily because I like it. But secondarily, I eat so I don't die. And I eat the right stuff so I don't die. Connie's not in here, but I'm good to my wife because I love her, and I'm also good to my wife so I don't die. Because she'll kill me. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. I take care of my car because I like it, but I also take care of my car so it will take care of me and won't break down. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, what do we call a body of water that has an inflow but not an outflow? A Dead Sea. A Dead Sea. And one of the most stark examples of this is the Tower of Babel. It really is. The Tower of Babel. If you really look at this closely, it's in Genesis chapter 11. And it says, let's build for, and they came to a place in the valley of Shinar, and they said, let's build for ourselves a city. They were traveling. They were on the move. They were nomadic. He says, let's stop here, let's camp here, let's build for ourselves a city. Now that sounds somewhat reasonable. But what it was let's build for ourselves a city. In other words, God's busy. He's got galaxies and other universes. Let's just do this one ourselves. Building something with God excluded. We all do that sometimes, right? Sounds so innocent, sounds so, God's not interested in that. Let's just do this one on our own. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Then he said, well, wait a minute. Then a tower leading into heaven, which speaks of a grid. In other words, we're going to have a standard. We're going to have a metric of right and wrong now. Now we're going to start deciding what right and wrong is. And it didn't stop there. And then we're going to have a name for ourselves. We're going to define ourselves. I'm a lady today. I'm a guy tomorrow. I'm a polar bear. I'm a porcupine. I'm Zulu, no, I'm European. The crazy stuff. That's what we're seeing today. Because people have decided they can build something apart from God. And then they start erecting these metrics of measurement for right and wrong apart from God. And one day you wake up and you've just got a definition that's from hell. But you know what's interesting? You know what's scary about it? You know where it all started? It ends with this. Let's build for ourselves a city. Let's build a tower going into heaven. Let's have a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered. They didn't want to go. God said go, and they eventually said no. And whenever we say no to the go, we open ourselves up for Babel building. Yeah. Boy, look at the church. Look at the religious spirit. We got Babels everywhere. Yeah. We don't have that here, of course. No, not at all. We drink way too much for babbling. Because of what we have. I'll wrap up with this. Because of what we have. Think about it. Because of what we've. in a car with a friend. You're a doctor, a medical doctor, and that person's a construction worker or just, a manager of a restaurant, and you come across a wreck where people are injured. Who are they going to expect more from? The doctor, the medical doctor. In fact, it would be considered unethical and almost immoral for him to have that knowledge and not apply his life-saving capacities right there. If you're a fireman, or you know what I'm saying, or there's an expectation. Well, who lives on the inside of you? The Savior, the deliverer, the healer, the one who brings peace, the one that breaks yokes of darkness, and it's everywhere out there. What we have, and this whole pandemic is designed by the enemy to stop it, to stop you in your tracks. Keep us tucked away and isolated. And I realize there are health and medical dynamics that have to be dealt with, but we never stop reaching out. Because God does not have an alternate plan for how his kingdom comes. He doesn't. He does not have an alternate plan. It's reaching out and loving people outside our so-called comfort zones. Do you know why the enemy continually tempts you? The reason why he continually tempts you is because he wants to get you living below who you are. That's what sin really is. Sin is just basically living contrary to the design that God has made for all of us. And it's these things, these steps, these decisions, these behaviors that allow us to break forth and to activate that nature. I really, and I want to close with this, I just want to extend a challenge, just a practical challenge. And listen, I know some of us do this. This isn't like a brand new truth. It's been in here for quite some time. People have been doing it a lot. But I tell you, it's like this. We know that we have more than we've ever had before. We do. To him who has been given much, much is expected. Yeah, much is required. He's poured a whole lot in. And therefore, a whole lot more is going to be coming out. But it's not going to be a handful of people that are in full-time ministry or maybe went to CSSM. It's all of us. The enemy is resisting that, and it's not hard. It's not difficult. You can start with the person working at the store who's helping you, checking you out, or someone serving you at a restaurant, or a petrol attendant, or someone you walk by, or coming into the theater and you meet the workers here, and it's as simple as a smile and how are you, and I'm a Christian and I just want to pray for you. What can I pray for? Sometimes it's as simple as that. In fact, it often starts in that place. Or you're aware of a need, and you just decide, I can do something with that. I can help with that. But this week, I promise you, if you'll do this, and it's not just the testimony of what God did with that person, but it's the change that it brings in you. You'll see, you will. You will see an absolute change in your own life. Why? Because when that glory busts out of your spirit towards another person, it has to go through your soul and through your body, and it will light you up like a Christmas tree. It'll bring people talk about praying for courage. You don't have to pray for courage. Take a step and it'll show up. When you take a step, it'll come out of the spirit into your soul, and you'll have it. That's how you get it. That's how it happens. And I just want to encourage each and every one of us. We are in as dark. It's like the reason why these lights are so bright right now is because it's so dark in here. That's why what I mean is, no, that's not why they're so bright. They're so bright because they're plugged in. The reason why we can see their brightness, why? Because it's so dark. If we were outside on a sunny day, you wouldn't even notice them. Do you notice street lights? Sometimes they stay on during the day. You don't notice them until the night. It's the same thing. Folks, it's never been darker on a global scale, and it's not getting any, and it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. The enemy he's pulled out all the stops. He really is. Why? Because he sees what God has done. He sees what's being released. He sees God's sons and daughters living their identity and more taking those steps of faith. I want to encourage you. There is an inheritance. It's yours. It's signed, sealed, and delivered, but it requires some co-labor. And so look, it could be at your workplace. It could just be, like I said, at a restaurant. People out there are a mess. They are. They're scared. They're angry. They're fearful. They're being oppressed. The damage being done to unsaved people is horrific. And even though it doesn't look like it because they're smiling and they're coming across with such confidence, but they're desperate. And I promise that you are that emissary. You are that ember. You are that shiny light so that Jesus can show up. And I tell you, that is the Holy Spirit's agenda. More of Jesus through all of us. But we have to step out beyond ourselves, beyond the comfort, to others not like us, and do this word. And it may be as simple as a wonderful thank you. Maybe you've gotten served by somebody. You just want to tell them, man, how you appreciate what they did. And whatever there's so many different ways you can express the kindness, the goodness, the beauty, the magnificence of Jesus. But it's harvest time. It really is. Jesus is in you, and he wants out. Father, thank you so much. Jesus, you are in us, and you have determined you're coming out. You're busting out. You're not going to be restrained or restricted or limited because your people are so grounded in just saying yes to your word, taking this word, taking the mandate, taking the promises and acting upon them. Father, in Jesus' name, I thank you for those in this room. I thank you for those online. Your sons and daughters, your best in the earth. It says in the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief among mountains. It didn't say a handful of leaders or this organization or that movement. It says the mountain of that. We are Mount Zion, the city of the living God. So, Father, that we would live like that like never before. When we gather here together, we gather as a celebration of what you've done Monday through Saturday. The people that have been blessed, the people that got saved, the people that encountered Jesus' goodness, never failing, all prevailing love. Father, in the name of Jesus, it's not a compulsion. You don't do it under compulsion. But would you provoke them to your love and good deeds? Would you provoke them? Would you remind them? That they would not just pass like the priest and the Levite that passed on the other side of the road so they didn't see the injured man? Would they be like the Samaritan? We get close and we realize, wow, that's me, that's us. Father, in Jesus' name, we just say yes. We say yes to Jesus showing up on our journeys like never before. Like never before. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And if you're online or if you're in here, and for whatever reason, there's it's easy to be religious, but do you have a relationship? Do you know Jesus personally, intimately? Are you living victoriously? Because that's what he paid for. That's what he died for. Jesus came to be Lord. That's why he can save. He has the final say. That's it. It's the only foundation. Jesus is the only foundation. No other foundation has been laid by which we might be saved. Jesus, the name of Jesus. His final say in your life. If you're online and you need to get right with Jesus, it's as easy as just you're convicted, you know it, and I'm giving you my faith. I'm putting my trust in you. I'm done with living my way, living the wrong way. making the wrong choices. And you can just pray this. Just say this. The Holy Spirit's there. He's the one that does the miracle in you. Just say, Heavenly Father, I thank you for Jesus. Thank you for the miracle of your new birth. It was paid for by the sacrifice of your Son. You didn't die on that cross so I could just be religious and just being a building on Sunday. You died on that cross so that I could walk with you intimately and powerfully. Forgive me of my sin. Cleanse me from all unrighteousness. Breathe your breath of life on the inside of me. Sit on the throne of my heart and be the Lord of my life from this day forward. In Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, wonderful. Well, for those of you that are online, God bless you. Love you. You guys are tremendous. We love you. Keep drinking. Huh? Yep, that's right. God bless.